Thank you, Professor URATA, and thank you so much for your presentation, Joko-san. I understand that your presentation is basically based on the study conducted by ERIA for master plan for ASEAN Japan next generation automotive industry, which was agreed upon between the leaders and the ministers of ASEAN and Japan. The decarbonization and the electrification of vehicles is a major challenge for the automotive industry, which may occur only once in a century. Since the 1980s and the 1990s, auto industry has contributed to the growth of ASEAN economy. And in the course of this development, ASEAN countries have built dense supply chains for the automotive industry within the region. In the context of the recent trend towards decarbonization and electrification, it is important to consider how to maintain and strengthen the competitiveness of the ASEAN automotive industry. I think that Joko-san's presentation clearly explained the various issues in the electrification of vehicles in ASEAN. First, the ASEAN automotive industry has developed a competitive supply chain and has been exporting cars not only within the ASEAN region but also outside the region. Second, in order to promote decarbonization in ASEAN, it is extremely important to achieve decarbonization in the automotive sector. ASEAN is implementing various policies to promote the introduction of EVs, but whether EVs will spread quickly will also depend on demand and the market within the region. In addition, whether or not the shift to EVs will actually contribute to emission reduction will also depend on energy mix in power generation sector. Based on this observation, I would like to make some comments on Joko-san's presentation from the perspective of automotive industry policy, although some of the points may be repetitive. Regarding new sales in ASEAN, there's a figure showing that 54% of the ASEAN new car sales will still IECs in 2035 in the best case scenario. And in addition to new car sales, we also need to pay attention to the existing stock. In the case of ASEAN, I think that the useful life of cars is a bit longer than in Japan. So that may mean that ICEs in ASEAN that were sold 5 years ago will still be around for another 10, 15, or 20 years. In order to reduce emissions from ICEs that have already been sold and are in use, it will be important to make use of biofuels or e-fuels, which may reduce CO2 emission from those existing ICEs. My second point is about supply chain. The perspective of how to make use of the existing supply chain in ASEAN is quite important from an industrial policy perspective. The automotive supply chain has created many jobs in the region. However, the transition to BEVs could have a significant impact on existing suppliers due to the reduction in the number of parts and the change in the types of parts required. It will be important to provide support for business transformation, and maybe it's from OEM, so that suppliers can respond to this big change of electrification. Recently, we have seen some Chinese EV manufacturers, such as BYD, decides to make large-scale investment in ASEAN. We will need to carefully monitor how this will affect the development of the supply chain within the ASEAN region. My third point is about emission. I think it is necessary to focus on the concept of well-to-wheel rather than tank-to-wheel. Even if there is no CO2 emissions from EVs, if the electricity they use is generated at coal-fired power plants, there will be a considerable amount of emissions in terms of well-to-wheel concept. Is it possible to rapidly decarbonize the ASEAN energy mix? Is the big question, big issue. East Asian countries, including ASEAN countries and Japan, are not rich at good environment for renewable energies. So if we don't carefully assess the progress of the decarbonization in energy sector, emissions will not decrease that much, even if electrification progresses. So what kind of cooperation is possible between Japan and ASEAN to overcome these issues will be the next question. It is at the moment, there are some possibilities for the possible cooperation, I think. One sector is how to support the transition of suppliers and human resources. Another point, the second point is how to reduce CO2 emissions over the life cycle. And third point is how to develop sustainable biofuels and e-fuels. And the last one is how to establish the stable supply chain in the region. These are all of my comments. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ito-san, for very important points, questions. Now, I'd like to ask Joko-san to respond to Ito-san's questions.
Yes.
Are you
thank
there?
you. Yeah,
Okay.
Urata-sensei.
Yes,
Ito-san, thank you for the
4 questions, right?
Yeah, thank you for the comments and questions. So for the first one is, yeah, indeed, I only presented the sales number, sales figures, but Ito-san is right that the stocks, the total existing fleet is playing an important role as an important variable. And indeed, in ASEAN, the lifetime of vehicle, except in Singapore, in other ASEAN countries, are really high, and we don't have a kind of vehicle inspection, regular vehicle inspection schemes that might stimulate car retirement or renewal as fast as in the advanced economies such as Japan or Europe or US. And yeah, we need to discuss how to have this kind of mechanism put in place in order to make the penetration of electric vehicles much more impactful to the whole fleet in terms of reduction of emission as well as in terms of reduction of energy use. Biofuel and e-fuels are indeed the two of the things that ASEAN countries are looking at seriously, especially Indonesia currently. And I think this kind of shortcut to reduce emission will be really important. But we need as well to have much more cooperation with more advanced economy to develop affordable but also sustainable biofuel for transport, because we face a lot of sustainability issue here, especially coming from the pressures of the advanced economies as well. For the second question on or second remarks on the supply chain, yes, indeed, this is the challenge. How OEM car manufacturers can make a transition, a smooth transition, especially in terms of technology, in terms of their industrial capacity, as well as human resources. How to have a smooth transition toward producing electric vehicles. Of course, first of the things that formation or education or training will be needed. And this will need intervention from government as well as advanced economic countries to help to have this transition. But for sure, as I presented, there will be surplus of manpower in this type of transition. Not all of the current automotive employee can be absorbed in the electric vehicle industry, and that means that the government intervention is needed to increase the need from other productive sectors. And emission, indeed, this is a very important point that the power generation mix in ASEAN need to be able to accelerate in its transition itself. And again, like the use of intermediary or transition technologies will be needed to reduce the average emission factors of the power generation. And I just agree with all of the corporation themes that Ito-san has mentioned, how to support transition in supplier and human resource, how to reduce emission in the life cycle side. And an area we had this discussion last week about the supply chain of critical minerals, and we really consider that in order to be able to have enough provision of critical minerals, for example, then a circular economy need to be implemented in this kind of automotive sectors. Yeah, thank you so much for those. If I forget one or 2 points, please remind me again.
Ito-san, do you have any additional comments?
Thank you so much. Thank you for your answers. I guess some of the audiences have some questions. So.
Okay, right. Okay, we have received several questions. Let me, Joko-san, do you see them, or do you see the questions, or if not, I think I'll read them.
I can see it. I can see it.
Okay, let us pick some of them. Say in the RIETI BBL seminar held last March, it was reported that the local governments, like Thai government, are actively supporting the entry of Chinese EV companies into the ASEAN market. Are Japanese cars being displaced by Chinese EVs in ASEAN? Any comments on this, Joko-san?
Yes, I see it. I mean, based on what I also have read in the newspapers and also in the media, I think this kind of policy measures put in place by Thai government are currently quite favorizing, give a favorable condition for Chinese automakers to enter Thai market. And we learned that several Japanese automakers in Thailand have been regrouped in terms of their production centers and network. So closing several centers and then make it one bigger. So like a grouping. And I think this is in one of other way is the normal reaction of the Japanese automakers toward this kind of fierce competition in Thai market.
Okay, someone related question. What impacts will EV exports from China to ASEAN as a result of excess capacity, I think, in China, right, have on the development of ASEAN automotive industry? So in other rapid expansion of Chinese exports to EV cars to ASEAN, would it not deter ASEAN industrial developments?
Yes, and I mean, this is one of the risks, and we see that the latest or the recent move also made by the US by putting like a double of the tariff for the EV coming from China, as well as in the European Union that increased by 50% its tariff on the EV from China. Then China will look for of course, look for other markets to market their overcapacity of EV production, and ASEAN countries such as Indonesia and Thailand that put currently policy measures in favor of this kind of electric vehicles importation will be the main destination of China to align or to give way to promote or to sell their overcapacity of EV. What will be the impact? Of course, this might deter ASEAN industrial development of the automotive sectors. And I think ASEAN government need to think about this very seriously. Like Indonesian government, for example, now by allowing this import of EV from other countries to Indonesia and obligating those importers to have the supply chain production centers in Indonesia or in Thailand, in the case of Thailand, then they will need to really be quite rigid with this kind of policy implementation. That means that by having this kind of policy measures, Indonesia or Thailand need to be able to develop the basic of its industry first, and to produce electric vehicles at a competitive price. Once the tax waiver will be uplifted, let's say after 2027. Then we hopefully the ASEAN industry sector will be ready, especially Thailand and Indonesia, to face against the pre-market competition with this overcapacity excess of China. But another thing is that ASEAN government need to look for European and US market to be their potential market, because they are banning EV coming from China, and US and European Union can be ASEAN future potential market, and this will need to be really assessed. But how to do that? Of course, ASEAN countries or ASEAN automotive sector need to raise the standards of its production, or to have a common standard in the region, and in cooperation with the US, Japan, or also European Commission or European Union, we can develop standard that will be able to be that should be implementable in ASEAN, and that will be acknowledged by market in Europe and in the US, for example.
Okay, thank you very much. So if Ito-san wants to come in and say something, please do so.
Yes, well, I can see one question from one of the audience, which is asking the implications of U.S. connected vehicle rules for Japan and ASEAN. And Joko-san, you just mentioned about the exports from ASEAN to U.S. or Europe. So this kind of newly introduced measures by U.S. government may affect those exporting flow from ASEAN to U.S. How do you look at this situation?
I think continuing what I mentioned previously, we need to look at this kind of tariff increase by U.S. to EV from China as one of the opportunity for ASEAN market. Of course, then we need to look at what will be the domestic EV targets in the US, for example. What will be the standard they put in place? And then ASEAN automotive industry need to look at that and need to be able to fulfill that kind of market. Let's say they will promote much more EV in the US in compared to what we have now domestically in ASEAN. Then this will be a kind of component that we need to consider in producing vehicles in ASEAN for export markets. Perhaps we will need to have kind of two kind of production. First, to serve for export market that will be much more progressive in terms of electric vehicle production, and for local market where the cost should be much more affordable, and this will be less progressive than in terms of vehicle technology than the one that we produce for export market.
Thank you.
Okay, just follow up on what Ito-san asked. As far as I understand, the U.S. imposes restriction on imports coming from anywhere, which have like Chinese parts and components or Chinese capital investment, I mean financial. So in other words, China-related companies cannot really export their cars to the U.S., right? So I'm just wondering if the EV producers in ASEAN, how Chinese companies are involved in the production of electric cars in ASEAN. If, suppose, say, Indonesian company, partly owned by Chinese, that is China connected, right, company.
Yeah.
That company's products cannot export their products to the U.S. That's the situation, I think. So I'm just curious to know how important Chinese companies are in ASEAN in producing electric cars. I hope I made myself clear.
Yes, Urata Sensei, yes, we learned also what happened not only in EV, but prior to this, we have witnessed what happened to the solar panel industry, because China is the biggest exporter, was the biggest exporter of solar modules or solar panel cells and so on. And at some point, US also put a ban on the import from China. And China did some offshoring to Malaysia. Malaysia was able at some point to export to US until they were banned as well. So we see this kind of situation might happen also in the electric vehicle production, as to this reply to Urata Sensei question. And what is Indonesia government been implementing is that they put some restriction or some requirements on the local content of the vehicles to be produced or to be built domestically in Indonesia by the current importers. So, for example, like let's say one of the automakers of China are currently importing, I'd say 20,000 of EV, then the EV that they would like to produce in Indonesia must meet several requirements of local content. There are like a set of threshold of local content has been put in place by Indonesian government. And I think if they can have this kind of requirement really implemented, then it will secure our position to be a potential exporter to US or to EU.
Okay, I think there are some other questions which are important, but I'm afraid that because of time, we have to close this very interesting, important webinar. Thank you very much to Dr. PURWANTO, Joko-san, and Ito-san. Thank you again. Thank you very much for your participation in our PBL seminar today. Thank you again.